Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Preston Show, episode number 9. We are live, having a great Thursday night, going into Friday morning. It's almost midnight, folks. It's almost midnight. Late night podcast. Here's a late night podcast, a special edition. This will be the last day of November, the 30th, going into the first day of December, the 1st. 3 days away from the start of winter here in the great state of Illinois, the state I love. The beginning of tonight's show is going to be me talking about the Victm card and about exactly what that is. We're going to go into a little cryptocurrency talk after that. And to round out the show, we're going to talk about why the tax plan on the Senate floor will pass today. Thank you for joining me once again. The Victm card, folks, is something that saddens me. Something that depresses me. We all grow up in a different environment, being that we have different parents, different families. We share different similarities when we get to know one another or get to know someone outside of the family. You find things you agree with, you find things you disagree with, you find topics to talk about, subject matter that's useful. Nowadays is different. It's a lot different. There's certain things you can't say anymore because of social media. And I'm not talking about anything that's detrimental, specifically speaking about just a natural conversation, going with the flow. You have to be very careful about doing that nowadays. So when I do the podcast, I cut loose, I have fun. Sometimes I joke around, but really, I'm being full frontal and coming at you serious as all hell. The problem we have with my generation, this Generation X, this generation, the forgotten generation, this will be the forgotten generation. Mark my words. This generation has developed a sense of power, a sense of dignity, a sense of moral ineptitude behind the Victm card. The Victm card is not when there is an actual crime taking place or when there is a crime that is being investigated. That is not where the Victm card comes into play. The Victm card is what people carry around. People that don't have any disabilities like myself, who didn't get everything handed to them, who have to work for it, who on our blood, sweat, and tears make the country able to survive with the debt that it has. We are the people. We are the people. The younger generation, this generation I'm speaking about, the X generation, this generation has solidified themselves like they're in a fortress, and the Victm card is the name of the fortress. And everybody's ducking low. They're hiding out. They don't want confrontation. They can't be wrong, scared to be embarrassed, and I say the hell with them. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. You got to be able to say, I made a mistake, here's how I'm going to fix it. You got to be able to know you're not perfect, so quit acting like you are. You got to strive for perfection in every task that you do in order to reach that greatness. Vince Lombardi tells us this. Great men have told us this, and great women have told us this, but we yet to let that sink in. It is not sunk in yet. We have yet to give the older generation the respect that it deserves. And every day you see activists popping up from Generation X. What are they doing? What do they know? Not a lot. And they're not doing a whole hell of a lot. The problem is not only this systemic victim card that people are playing when they feel like they have been beaten by the system, when they feel like they have been put on the losing end. But if you feel like you were put on the losing end, if you feel like you were put in a bad situation, then you were also relying on someone else to put you in a good situation, or someone else to carry your ass. So the problem we have is people not finding comfort with themselves. That's the first problem. That's the first thing you would have to correct if you use the victim card. If you say, woe is me. If you say, I'll never get out of this debt. I'll never get out of this struggle. I'll never get out of this hurt or this pain I'm feeling. If that's where you're at, all hope is not lost. But you have lost hope in yourself. I've come to terms with my generation, but I will not sit idly by and watch my generation, Generation X, the generation of us, the generation of the future, the generation of the leaders of tomorrow, get doped up, opioided up, spew their nonsense, their garbage, their filth and rhetoric about things they have no knowledge about or no interest in, except the like or the comments or the hearts or whatever emoji they get on social media. The victim card plays itself out. Older people use this card, but they do not use it as well as Generation X. I have never been more afraid than I am for my generation. I believe the generation coming up behind us and behind them will be fine, will understand the faults and the mistakes of Generation X and the downfall of many in Generation X being the victim card and its easy availability. We all understand each other will not agree with everything we bring to the table. We have to move past that. We have to be able to compromise. But we never will compromise on values that built who we are or who you are. And I will never ask you to compromise on your values. But I will ask you to understand that there will be a time where compromise is the only solution. We're not there yet. We're a long ways from there. But we are headed there, and we're headed there fast. And we're headed there faster than we could turn around the ship. You see it everywhere on social media, day in and day out. You see it in the news. People feeling like they got the raw end of the deal. They can't make decisions for themselves. College debt skyrocketing. It's out of control. They don't have a plan to pay it back, but they sure as hell had a plan when they took the money, didn't they? They had a plan to spend it, not a plan to pay it back. This is the victim card coming full center. It's going to topple over student loan debt. They're already predicting mass universities to close down. Mass layoffs. Mass layoffs in the universities. Not only mass layoffs, but universities shutting their doors, going to online only. Very limited education taking place on campus. This is where we are headed. This is not because of 1 year of Donald Trump. This is not because of 8 years of Barack Hussein Obama. This is the doing of the last 40 years and the political push that has dissolved the minds of Generation X. The platform was there when we were born, so we could be easier to manipulate than the generations before us. They do it with technology. When people want to get their message across, when people want to spread some type of news, technology will push it. And when technology moves faster than man, there is no telling what type of danger and what type of harm will continue to happen and has continued to happen with so many. The suicides of young men and women from online shaming is something you rarely hear about, but I will speak about it because I've had people come to me with their problems. Nothing as serious as suicide, but damn near close, damn near borderline. It's about understanding. It's about compassion. And it's about compelling that person to believe that they are holding value and not holding the victim card. This is something that is not easy to convince somebody. Easier than convincing somebody to quit drugs. So it is definitely doable. But we will continue to see a steep decline in Generation X as our generation continues to climb the age ladder. I have a lot of people who are close to me that have faith in our generation that say if anybody's going to do it, it will be us. If we're going to get over war, if we're going to get over hardships, if we're going to get out of the massive debt that this country holds, it is going to be Generation X. And to me, it sounds like malarkey. To me, it sounds like baloney. And I don't know who's making this sandwich, but it's staling. And it's staling out to the point where once you bite into it, it's going to be hard as a rock. You can't bite off more than you can chew if you can't bite it off to begin with. That is where our generation is at. I've laid out some examples of ways to correct this. My favorite example, and the example that I practice, not only preach, is to find comfort with purely yourself. Once you learn to enjoy your own company without any other influence, TV, radio, music, once you learn to enjoy your own company is when you can truly strive. You can truly obtain the fruits of your labor, better yourself, deepen your pockets, and begin to save for your retirement. You will never do these things if you are never happy with yourself and who you are in your own flesh and blood. Sticks and stones is such an old saying, I usually don't go there. But the value of that saying goes so far. This is why I preach to the generation to get them off their ass, to get them going, to be motivated, to push each other to be better, but don't push each other off the edge. You may come close, but there's a line, and we don't cross the line. I love to talk about brotherhood, coming together, chivalry. We just recently had Thanksgiving. This is a peaceful season, a happy time of year. Many festivities, families coming together, friends burying hatches, in-laws stopping the fighting just for a short time. This is the time of year I love. So this will be the time of year that we will talk about brotherhood the most. Moving into my next segment. Cryptocurrency. Look, folks, I'm a big believer in cryptocurrency. But there is so much risk in this market that if you didn't get in at the beginning of this, right now, I believe would almost be too much of a gamble for myself. Bitcoin loses a fifth of its value today. It did come back, but still finished 4% lower than what it started today. That's interesting. That's very interesting. And it's very contradictive of what cryptocurrency is. I believe that because Bitcoin is so expensive to mine is why you see the cost so high and the price so high now. And I believe as it becomes cheaper to mine, that will have a direct correlation to bringing that cost down and bringing that Bitcoin down to a more ideal, realistic cost. Now, there's obviously things that can happen to stop that as far as investment. But as far as investment goes, it is rumored that a lot of the early Bitcoin investors are beginning to cash out. This, to me, is a sign to watch Bitcoin very carefully, very cautiously throughout the rest of this year. The UK is even developing a cryptocurrency. But is it too late in the game when you have a abundance of cryptocurrency providers, cryptocurrency networks, cryptocurrency marketeers? And they're on there on the social media. They're pounding the social media web hard. They're pushing through the pages, and they're looking for anybody that puts Bitcoin in a post or a hashtag or a comment. They're going to try to pull you into it. This is also a sign that it's too good to be true. Time will tell. Time will tell. The tax plan will pass today. And it will pass in the Senate. I have no doubt in my mind. I have absolute faith in the Senate to get this tax plan passed, just like I had faith in the House to get it to the Senate. And at this point, That's all I can have is faith. Obviously, the president will sign it. The Obamacare mandate will be repealed if this plan is enacted. And for a short time, the poor, the people in poverty, not the middle class, because we talk about the middle class all day long, but you're not talking about the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans are in poverty. And in that poverty, we have had no help from the federal government, except we've had state government, federal government, take more and ask for more. As if what we were given wasn't good enough. This is sad. I call it a tragedy. But really what it is thieving. This isn't Robin Hood. This is Captain Kidd. When I say the tax plan will pass, there's a reason I say this. I'm reading the tea leaves here, folks. John McCain, Senator John McCain, who I've been critical of in the past, but I have great admiration and respect for, Senator John McCain has not only endorsed the tax plan, but is promoting it. And is now one of the biggest promoters of the tax plan. So there's no doubt in my mind, and no doubt in a lot of conservatives' minds, that the rank and file Republicans will fall in line with John McCain. Maybe you have 2 senators from the Republican Party that don't vote for it. Well, if you have 2 Republican senators that don't vote for it, and every single Democrat in that Senate does not vote for this tax plan, they're forgetting Michael Pence, Vice President Mike Pence, will be the deciding vote to sway this tax plan to President Donald Trump's desk. So let us not forget. If there's a will, there's a way. If we believe it can be done, it's all about the effort from there on out. A lot of times you see bills go into the House and you don't see the legwork to get it done. This time the legwork was there. That's why I am fully confident it will be done. It will be enacted. It will not take effect immediately because we are already set in stone for this year's tax return and this year's tax filing. But after this year, all bets are off. And I'm glad. I'm very glad. Makes me happy to see something done with taxes. A major issue. A pivotal issue for the country. Being handled in a manner that was never handled in the last 30 years. In the last 30 years, this matter hasn't been handled this well. And you'll hear criticism from the right. You'll hear the criticism, obviously, from the left. But it's because there's something in there that is affecting them, that is going to hurt them financially. And don't let them fool you one way or another. They can tell you all day they pay a lot of taxes and they do this and they do that. Well, that's good, but no one's asking you. And if we did ask you, we didn't ask because we care. We asked because we wanted to make sure you weren't lying. As most in the media are known to do. So when you look at taxes and you look at the main people attacking the plan, saying the plan is no good, they have no plan, And if they did have a plan, their plan is nowhere to be found. And I believe the loudest person in the room crying about the tax plan will be the one hurt the most by it. And I do not hear poor Americans or Americans in poverty crying about the tax plan. As a matter of fact, I hear quite the opposite. There's a roar in the street. There's an upbeat man and woman on Capitol Hill. And there's that same upbeat man and woman in Montana. There's that same upbeat man and woman in Nebraska. That same upbeat man and woman in Indiana. And they're saying, give me this tax plan. Give me freedom for my tax filing from here on out. And enough of state governments, federal income tax, ripping the budget until there's not enough to go around. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on another great episode of The Preston Show. This was episode number 9, and just like the hands of time, I'm turning it over to you.